Welcome to the mineral processing module. Right now we're in the AVIE facility, and you can see behind us part of the module that we've got here. It's a 360-degree video, so feel free to have a look around. What we're showing is the way that we teach some mineral processing students the copper and gold processing flow sheet, which traditionally would look something like this, where we can see a 2D diagram of the whole circuit. We see different stages of the mineral processing circuit, what feeds into what, the certain recirculation and flow through inputs and outputs. So traditionally this was a little hard for some students to understand what relates to what, how things are connected, and what the whole process would actually look like on site. And unfortunately we're a little bit limited with how many students we could get to actual mine sites. The location of them isn't too close to UNSW. So we thought, what better way than create a 3D replica of an actual mineral processing circuit. We can take people on a bit of a journey to see what this looks like at a real mine site, but also as a 3D model that we can explore a bit further. So this is our 3D replica of that process. We can see the whole layout of the different stages. So over here we've got some of the more processing heavy components, and we can use our 3D model to jump from location to location within this model. So right now we're near the SAG mill and screens. We can have a look at what this would actually look like on the real mine site as well. So some 360-degree panoramas that showcase the as mine conditions. And you can see that it's a little bit busy in some areas, and it's hard to understand all the things that are connected. So in our 3D model we've simplified it a little bit to make it a bit easier to focus on some key components and concentrate that for the students. I'll jump to our next location, which are the screens, and then go to the pebble crusher as well. The cone crusher, and then up to our hydrocyclones. So on a mine site, what the students would have traditionally seen is something like this. Bit hard to understand what's going on, how the internal functions of this piece of equipment work, and it's very important in the filtering stages within the processing cycle. So in our 3D model, we have the ability to create some simulations. In here we see a cross-section of the hydrocyclone, where we can simulate the effective particles within that to show the separation of larger and smaller particles. You can see the bigger particles being flung to the outside edges through the actions of centripetal force, and the smaller particles being lifted through the center, through the vortex, and separated into a different channel. We can then start to relate that to our circuit diagram. If we go back to our flow sheet, we can see where we are over here at the hydrocyclone that's been highlighted in yellow, and the different feeds of that go off to different parts of the circuit. So we can start to relate the in-field conditions to the 3D model of how it works, to the flow sheet of how everything is connected. So really trying to draw together those different elements of learning. If we jump back to our mine site and go to our next location, which is the ball mill, here we've got another simulation to show what the internal workings of this look like. So I'll turn our simulation on, and we'll go for a bit of a walk over there to have a look inside the ball mill. So as it's a full 3D model, we can walk around where we want to and have a look at the environment. So here we were able to have a look inside the simulation of a ball mill and look at the particles being picked up with the steel balls and dropped on themselves to grind the material down to a size that allows the liberation of the copper and gold minerals in this case. So impossible to have a look inside one of these whilst it's operating on a real mine, but we can give students this virtual view to understand the mechanics of what's going on, the amount of the ball mill that's being filled, and understand the process a bit better from the safety of a classroom. Back to the mine environment. I'll take us back to the flow sheet now, and we can skip forward a few different stages. So you see our little yellow icon progressing through the different components of the flow sheet. We'll go to the roughers, and we'll jump back on the ground there and have a look at our mine site model. So here we are in one of the processing sheds, and we can see another simulation here of how the froth rotation system works. So what we want to show, we'll jump down a little bit, is the impellers creating the bubbles and mixing the particles with our processing flocculant. To be able to create these bubbles, we'll jump up again and go for a bit of a look at our demonstration bubble over here. It's got some blue ore particles attached to it. So that's floated to the surface with the froth, and that flows across the edge of the bath and gets collected to form our concentrate after it's dried. There's a few waste particles on there. We haven't got it perfectly separated, but down the bottom you can see more of the darker black particles that have been left down the bottom to form the tailings of the waste of the processing unit. So really letting people dive inside the workings of these bits of equipment that they would see on the mine site in an area that looks something like this. So a bit harder to see what's going on, and with the aid of the simulations and the simplified 3D model, make it much easier to understand the inner workings. So really trying to take a traditional form of learning like this to something that's a bit more engaging, where they can see and explore that 3D model, but also relate it to the site conditions through the aid of those 360-degree panoramas and high-resolution images.